station, where unknown forces strike the edge of ecology.
Hi, it's Thursday the 23rd of June 2016, a day that many have waited for a long time, because it's the day that the UK decided to hold its referendum into its continued membership of the European Union. Well, I've got my watch here, it says 9:53 and 30 seconds, so we've got about 6.5 minutes to go till polls close at 10 o'clock. They opened at 6. It's been funny weather here on the southeast of England. We've had rain on and off, some sun. We had thunder earlier in the day, just after I voted. That seems to have settled down now. It's just past summer solstice. There's a kind of an ashen blue sky just darkening outside my window here. Well, it's been a very, very long lead up to this, and things changed rather a lot last week when there was the awful killing of Joe Cox MP. I was actually on my way to an EU referendum debate held at the Greyhound Stadium in Hove. Again, it was raining, and I got there and there was a bit of a strange atmosphere. I didn't know why, because I hadn't had the news on previous to that. And then I found out from someone in the audience that this MP had been stabbed and shot. I didn't know if they were dead at that point. There was some talk from the panellists who were there for Remain and for Leave, and the Remain ones had turned up, but then they didn't want it to go ahead. There'd been a minute's silence at the start before I got there, so there was a bit of a strange atmosphere where everyone was expecting an event to occur, and they weren't sure whether it would or not. Two of the Remain side walked out. A last one, who was a councillor from London, I think was going to speak, but then got miffed with the organisers and walked off too, leaving a one-sided debate, which wasn't ideal. So it was just the Leave side putting arguments which we probably heard before, but were well put before the audience of locals. I must say it wasn't a great turnout. It was a fairly big function room. You could have got a couple of hundred in there. There was only about 30 or 40 in the audience. Not ideal, but perhaps it had been this terrible murder that very afternoon that had put people off going. Obviously, we do tend to take a conspiratorial view on the information. I won't labour that tonight. But when, someone dies like that, killed by what has sometimes been branded a Brexit campaigner, you do wonder. I mean, the Brexit, which is leaving the EU side, we're getting ahead in the last couple of weeks, and then suddenly this happens and the Remain side seems to be surging ahead, perhaps in sympathy for the MP who died, who supported the Remain side. Obviously it's sub judice, we can't talk about the case. You can outside Britain, but we know that political assassinations do happen. Those who follow these kind of subjects know that you can foment or incite actions. There are techniques of psychological control that can make a vulnerable person do things. We know about things that have been done by the CIA. Even Darren Brown on TV can get someone to act very strangely. So if such a technique was used, who knows? It's not for us to say, something to maybe think about, but certainly it's a tragedy, whatever. And I did vote today. I won't say which way I went, but I can't say I did it with any great enthusiasm. I almost felt like not voting or spoiling the ballot paper, partly I think because of the horrible murder. I kind of wish they put the whole thing off for a while, to be honest. And the way the ballot paper was worded was a bit strange. The Remain side was at the top and had a very long sentence justifying to remain, and underneath was or leave the EU. It wasn't just the words remain or leave, and you could have just put an X by one. I felt that the way it was laid out made the Remain side look like it had more explanation next to it, and the leave bit looked a little bit dismissive, like you were just kind of going to the bottom of the page and crossing that version off. So I wasn't too happy about that, but again, you have to get beyond the layout that's put in front of you and just look at the wording and remember why you went in the first place. Well, we've got just over a minute to go if this watch is accurate. I will turn the radio up just to get the this Big Ben, maybe, if they're not repairing it. I think it's all falling down Westminster at the moment. It is going to be fixed in the near future. They're going to move a lot of the politicians out for a long time and do it up. So that'll be interesting. I don't know whether I'll use a different clock. Well, of course, they've got the Greenwich time signal as well. I'm going to be staying up through a lot of the night to listen to this, but it's going to be a very, very slow business. So I'll probably record a sort of second part of this episode, either in the middle of the night or in the morning, just to put a very quick summary of how I feel. Obviously, it's going to be big news, so you don't really need the information to tell you the result. But we've always tried to give subjective accounts of things which show how we ourselves experience current affairs and the paranormal and unusual events. And I think that's always been our way of doing it, giving you a kind of subjective personal view, not just the information, it's the information, but it's a whole lot more. Anyway, let's turn the radio up, hear what's going on.
It's 10 o'clock. Good evening. You're listening to The World Tonight with Razia Iqbal. The polls have closed. Counting will begin shortly, and within hours we'll have the result of the EU referendum. We'll hear from our reporters in the most Eurosceptic...
Well, there you go. They didn't use Big Ben. I think they use that at the midnight news. They tend to switch between the two. Anyway, I'm going to be listening to that through the night, and maybe I'll talk to you again a bit later on. Well, it's about 4 hours since I spoke. It's on here 1:51, and things have been changing throughout the night. Generally speaking, they were saying Remain was going to win, and Nigel Farage actually came on and said he wasn't conceding that, but he thought that was very likely they were going to win by a narrow amount. But quite a few results have come out now, and there's been quite big swings over to Leave. Obviously, it's not an election, there are no candidates as such, but they have got an idea from election results in these various areas and what they would reasonably expect the outcome to be. So they had a prediction before, and then they kind of measuring it against that, and there's been big swings to the Leave side, which is, I'm sure, a good thing. On balance, I did actually vote that, I have to say. I'll say now, but not, as I said, not wildly enthusiastic, because part of me still likes the idea of a kind of a European organisation, but not the EU in its current form. But it seems very draconian to have to actually vote to leave. It's a shame it can't be a sort of option of making it better or changing it to something a bit better, but that's not an option, or if it was an option, that seems to have gone. Anyway, it's still early in the evening in a sense. It's kind of early morning really. Daylight will be up in about 3 or 4 hours, and it could well be a Remain vote still, but looking the way it's going, it probably won't be. So it's certainly a fascinating time. It's just gone 4 o'clock. That's a little over 2 hours since I last spoke to you. You might hear I'm getting a bit tired. The sky is kind of very light blue. I always worry when it gets to dawn, because then you just can't get to sleep, so I'm calling it a night here. The Leave EU is maintaining a little lead now, quite steadily. There was a little bit of a wobble an hour maybe ago, but it's got ahead again, and Nigel Farage is now tweeting apparently that it looks like there's going to be a Brexit dawn. Interestingly, the market's been open in the Far East and already reacting to this, and the pounds, to be honest, I don't really know enough about finance to comment on it, but they're certainly worried about it. But it shows how globalisation works, that we haven't even had the result yet, and they're sitting there in the Far East listening to provincial towns in England declaring votes from town halls. A friend of the information, Nigel Finesse, is not a returning officer, he's an agent for the count in Brighton and Hove, and he's down at the Corn Exchange tonight. I haven't been listening to local radio, So I've no idea. In fact, we don't really have local radio as such. We have a kind of regional service at night, but in the morning there would be a result from that. But it may well have already happened. I don't know at what time it would have happened. I should think by now it would have been declared. Brighton, I would imagine, very likely would be Remain. It tends to be quite left-wing kind of place, but you never can tell with these things. It'd be interesting to see. Yeah, Nigel's got great stamina. He'll be getting home probably about 6 or 7 and watching it on TV. But I'm going to have a bit of a sleep now, otherwise I think I would not function great in the morning. Oh, I see the moon there, just over a roof outside. Just coming round right now. It's kind of 3/4 moon. That's really nice. So yeah, before that starts glaring in my window, I won't get to sleep at all then. So I'm going to leave it for now, and obviously we'll catch up in the morning.
Walking out the door, he's going to the lectern. We're going to hear from the Prime Minister.
The country has just taken part in a giant democratic exercise, perhaps the biggest in our history. Over 33 million people from England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and Gibraltar have all had their say. We should be proud of the fact that in these islands we trust the people with these big decisions. We not only have a parliamentary democracy, but on questions about the arrangements for how we're governed, there are times when it is right to ask the people themselves, and that is what we have done. The British people have voted to leave the European Union, and their will must be respected. I want to thank everyone who took part in the campaign on my side of the argument, including all those who put aside party differences to speak in what they believed was the national interest. And let me congratulate all those who took part in the Leave campaign for the spirited and passionate case that they made. The will of the British people is an instruction that must be delivered. It was not a decision that was taken lightly, not least because so many things were said by so many different organisations about the significance of this decision. So there can be no doubt about the result. Across the world, people have been watching the choice that Britain has made. I would reassure those markets and investors that Britain's economy is fundamentally strong. And I would also reassure Brits living in European countries and European citizens living here that there will be no immediate changes in your circumstances. There will be no initial change in the way our people can travel, in the way our goods can move, or the way our services can be sold. We must now prepare for a negotiation with the European Union. This will need to involve the full engagement of the Scottish, Welsh and Northern Ireland governments to ensure that the interests of all parts of our United Kingdom are protected and advanced. But above all, this will require strong, determined and committed leadership. I'm very proud and very honoured to have been Prime Minister of this country for 6 years. I believe we've made great steps, with more people in work than ever before in our history, with reforms to welfare and education, increasing people's life chances, building a bigger and stronger society, keeping our promises to the poorest people in the world, and enabling those who love each other to get married whatever their sexuality. But above all, restoring Britain's economic strength. And I'm grateful to everyone who's helped to make that happen. I've also always believed that we have to confront big decisions, not duck them. That is why we delivered the first coalition government in 70 years to bring our economy back from the brink. It's why we delivered a fair, legal and decisive referendum in Scotland. And it's why I made the pledge to renegotiate Britain's position in the European Union and to hold a referendum on our membership, and have carried those things out. I fought this campaign in the only way I know how, which is to say directly and passionately what I think and feel, head, heart and soul. I held nothing back. I was absolutely clear about my belief that Britain is stronger, safer and better off inside the European Union. And I made clear the referendum was about this and this alone, not the future of any single politician, including myself. But the British people have made a very clear decision to take a different path. And as such, I think the country requires fresh leadership to take it in this direction. I will do everything I can as Prime Minister to steady the ship over the coming weeks and months. But I do not think it would be right for me to try to be the captain that steers our country to its next destination. This is not a decision I've taken lightly, but I do believe it's in the national interest to have a period of stability and then the new leadership required. There is no need for a precise timetable today, but in my view we should aim to have a new Prime Minister in place by the start of the Conservative Party conference in October. Delivering stability will be important, and I will continue in post as Prime Minister with my Cabinet for the next 3 months. The Cabinet will meet on Monday. The Governor of the Bank of England is making a statement about the steps that the Bank and the Treasury are taking to reassure financial markets. We will also continue taking forward the important legislation that we set before Parliament in the Queen's speech. And I've spoken to Her Majesty the Queen this morning to advise her of the steps that I'm taking. A negotiation with the European Union will need to begin under a new Prime Minister. And I think it's right that this new Prime Minister takes the decision about when to trigger Article 50 and start the formal and legal process of leaving the EU. I will attend the European Council next week to explain the decision the British people have taken and my own decision. The British people have made a choice. That not only needs to be respected, but those on the losing side of the argument, myself included, should help to make it work. Britain is a special country. We have so many great advantages. A parliamentary democracy where we resolve great issues about our future through peaceful debate. A great trading nation with our science and arts, our engineering and our creativity respected the world over. And while we are not perfect, I do believe we can be a model of a multiracial, multi-faith democracy where people can come and make a contribution and rise to the very highest that their talent allows. Although leaving Europe was not the path I recommended, I am the first to praise our incredible strengths. I've said before that Britain can survive outside the European Union, and indeed that we could find a way. Now the decision has been made to leave, we need to find the best way. And I will do everything I can to help. I love this country, and I feel honoured to have served it. And I will do everything I can in future to help this great country succeed. Thank you very much.
Well, it's 8:25, and that's Prime Minister David Cameron, still is Prime Minister for now. Yeah, I mean, I woke up obviously a bit earlier than this, and though I didn't know the amount, it's roughly 52 to 48, I think, in favour of Brexit. And David Cameron's not saying if he'll have another general election. He didn't seem to be saying that. He seemed to be saying there'd be a change of leadership while he remains running a Conservative government. That's happened before. Of course, it happened with Tony Blair handing over to Gordon Brown. So we'll have to see how things go. And anyway, certainly quite a day, certainly quite a night. The night Britain left Europe.
The information where unknown forces strike the edge of ecology.